Hi, I'm Richard Stiennon, and welcome to this demo forum interview. I'm talking with Michael Oldham, who is the CEO of PortSys. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks very much, Richard. Appreciate it.
Michael, we've never talked before, so I'm anxious to learn more about PortSys. Tell me, in a nutshell, what you do and what you mean by total access control.
So Total Access Control is our product. It's really designed to help organizations manage access to information resources wherever they happen to be, local or cloud, and to do so within the existing infrastructure that they already have in place. So there's no need to change the identity source that you have today, no need to rewrite applications or move things around. It allows organizations to move at the change of pace that the organization can manage rather than trying to go in and do a re-architect of the entire infrastructure.
Got it. I can only imagine how much demand there is for that with everybody talking about zero trust. If I've got Active Directory already, I've got my VPN concentrators for remote access, I might have a CASB-like thing for access to YouTube and Salesforce. And you're saying you're making that simpler, right? Getting rid of some of those requirements to go to a zero trust world.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest challenges is complexity within organizations today, right?
For sure.
Too many different products that are managing control over access to too many different things, and they all have to be managed, updated, patched. You have to have expertise in all of those, and most organizations don't really have enough resource to be able to manage all of that and do it effectively. And on top of that, you may not know about some of the challenges or product vulnerabilities, et cetera, that come along. Vendors always try to be prompt on making those available, but we see out in the world, people don't patch for long periods of time, even after those vulnerabilities have been made public. And it's the complexity of that, both on the organization side, but also the end user side, because they have to deal with the complexities that we put in place. So it's a real challenge, and those are some of the biggest reasons why we seeing people continuously hacked today. The more things in the news that we see, it's really everybody's trying to penetrate the perimeter, get on the inside, and once they're on the inside, it's really game over for most organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're displacing and getting rid of the need for a lot of these components, which components do you have to deploy and install and configure?
Well, it really depends on what the organization's needs are. Total access control is designed to work with technologies that exist within the infrastructure. So there are different business reasons why somebody might want to use something like a mobile device management system or other kinds of solutions. But the idea is to start to bring those together, and total access control can be a security overlay for those products as well, bringing them all into one place that you can get to be able to control access, have logs and reports and auditing over everything that's happening. But at the same time, we also have the capability to close those ports to the outside world, which is really important. So those are what the hackers see on the outside. If you open something like, RDP is always a popular topic. Port 3389 ends up being open to the outside world. If you're doing that, whether it's Gold Brute or Blue Keep or whatever kinds of threats that they're throwing at those ports, the hackers see them just like the people who are trying to get legitimate access. And they can then penetrate those with different attacks or steal your credentials, which is a very common way that people do it today, get in through those, and once they're on the inside of your infrastructure, it's game over. So we actually allow organizations to remove those ports to the outside world, just have something like an encrypted port 443 out to the world, and then it looks just like a encrypted web server to everybody else, to the outside world, and then we manage the connections. But after it's been authenticated and authorized, we'll manage those connections on the inside of the infrastructure rather than doing it on the perimeter, right on the edge, the way we do it today.
Right, got it. Do you get the extra benefit of, stealthing the resources so somebody can't even see them because they haven't authenticated yet?
Yeah, absolutely, because you can't hack what you can't see, right? And that's a very strong principle when you're looking to try to hide everything that you've got. And now this also not only makes it hidden, even if somebody knew that it was going over 443, they'd have to be able to go through. First, it's encrypted on the outside world when they're looking at it, but then they'd have to figure out a way to hack and penetrate all the authentication levels, and then they have to be approved for authentication and authorized for that resource on the inside. And even if they went through all that, which would be nearly impossible to do, they would only be able to access that specific resource that user was qualified for under those exact circumstances. So they couldn't then pivot to attack other resources on the infrastructure.
Got it. So one of the concerns a lot of people have is, hey, the attacker is going to get on my authenticated user's device and then start abusing that connection. What about this concept of dynamic authentication where you kind of monitor the activities of the user?
Sure, and there's a number of different things you can do. The first thing, the most important thing, is to have a strong front door that keeps them from doing that. So even if somebody comes in and tries to take over a device, you can have a number of different things happening, like that. First, the device, you have to have multi-factor authentication. We can do device validation. We can do things like registry key entries or certificates or lots of other things that can be available to help to secure that connection and the authorization for different resources. And every resource can have its own level of permissions, even the capability to put in additional multi-factor authentication on each application. So if you've got higher levels of authorization, or you're in a very secure environment, you may want to have biometrics, or you may want to have other kinds of authentication on the inside once they're trying to get access to sensitive resources. So we support all of that.
Cool. When people are shifting to the cloud, one of the first things they do is move to Office 365, which is generally a pretty good idea considering the vulnerabilities in on-prem Office Exchange servers. Will they experience, a lag in authenticating because now they have to also go through PortSys?
No. So what we do is from a performance perspective, we built TAC from the ground up for two things: security and performance. So what we've done as an architecture is we've set it up so that this is scalable to whatever needs that you have. Just on from a licensing perspective, we actually don't charge by throughput, bandwidth, connections, or anything. It's just by user. And a user can actually have multiple different devices. The reason why I say that is that when you're looking at it from a scalability perspective, our technology is built on the basis of virtual machines. They're secure virtual machines. And those virtual machines, all you have to do for an individual instance is add memory or RAM, depending on what your needs are, to that individual instance. Then you can concatenate that into an array to scale to whatever size that you need, including the ability to concatenate multiple arrays to each other if you wanted to do something like have multiple data centers across the world in different geolocations. So the idea is that the scalability is not in our hands, but it's in our customers' hands to be able to build the performance to whatever degree that you need. But most of our customers in fact, all of our customers find that not dependent on the number of users, they get perfectly strong performance at every turn, regardless of how many devices they have, how many devices in an array, et cetera.
Now, do you maintain those points of presence, wherever they are in the world, or does the customer basically just delegate some resources in whatever data center or cloud that they're using?
Yeah, we're not a multi-tenant solution. We're not a cloud-based solution. Our solution will run in either the local data center or the cloud, or in a hybrid of both, where you can actually do redundancy, active failover across between different locations, and basically encompass your entire array. We look at it from a security perspective. A multi-tenant environment is not necessarily as secure. I know that they put a lot into securing it, but if a breach happens, which we've seen a couple very recently, if a breach happens, then you're in the pool with everybody else, and that can be a challenge from a security perspective. Our preference is that we give the customer the control. They can still run it wherever they want, but the customer is in complete control over the environment, so it's up to them as to what they want to do, and if they need to make any changes at any point in time, they can certainly do that completely at their discretion.
I can see how that's going to appeal to certain levels of customers, especially, right, who have that control requirement. I'm thinking of defense contractors in Massachusetts, as a matter of fact, that would definitely want that. And then, I think you already mentioned the authenticators, and I think I know the answer to this, but if I've invested a lot in two-factor authentication, do I have to tear any of that out, or I can keep using it?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. We include about 6 different types of multi-factor authentication in our product. It all comes, by the way, at no additional cost. It's just part of the product.
Sure.
But we will support virtually any kind of multi-factor authentication that you have in place because we want to work with our customers to work the way that they want to do business rather than us dictating to our customers how they should do business. So they can use whatever they choose.
So, Michael, doing authentication for SaaS is kind of the, your everything you do on the internet, from Salesforce.com to your health benefits provider, is fairly straightforward, right? They're set up to receive authenticated connections, and on the customer side, they've set it up. So you're just working between those two. But what about legacy apps between, client server things that are sitting in the data center? There's so many old ways to log into things. How do you handle those?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's really important too, because for a security solution to work and to be comprehensive, it has to take into account all of the different things that you have within your infrastructure. One of the challenges that I see with security today is a lot of the security providers, a lot of people who are looking at zero trust or other things, they solve a portion of a problem, but they don't solve it in a comprehensive way. And what that ends up doing is actually creating more complexity within the infrastructure that can be a bigger problem from a security perspective to manage, because now you have all these exceptions. So what total access control is designed to do is work with those hard to use applications as well, the ones that are hard to secure. So things like legacy applications, the old mainframe kinds of applications that some organizations have had around for 30, 40 years, but they can't change it because they're main line of business. We can provide the capabilities to do things like multi-factor authentication in front of those devices or those applications and resources. Things like client-server applications, like you brought up. And also things like the SSH and IoT kinds of devices, so routers and switches and other things that are part of the network infrastructure, or devices like air conditioning systems or cameras or other things that people have to go out of their way, or some organizations even create second networks that have all their IoT devices on it so they don't have to compromise their main one. We can provide the access control that only allows, say, a third-party contractor to get access to that air conditioning system only. They don't get access through a VPN, they don't get access to the whole network, they just get access to what they're supposed to get access to in their existing infrastructure. So the idea is that we bring all of those different kinds of applications into the fold so that you can secure those properly and now have a common interface, a common way of doing multi-factor authentication, device validation, etc., for access to all of your resources wherever they happen to be, whatever they happen to be, local, cloud, etc.
Got it. So what's the best way, other than watching your great demos here on the demo forum, which I encourage everybody to go do so you can see just how it works, but what's the best way for them to get a hold of you and start engaging?
Well, one of the easiest ways is at our website, www.portsys.com. That's the easiest way to get to us, and that then has the connections to talk to somebody, to request more information, to look at videos or look at product sheets, data, case studies, etc. That's generally the wealth of information for customers who want to take a look and take a look at it themselves.
Cool. Makes a lot of sense. I think I now understand how PortSys works and your differentiators, of which there are numerous ones. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it, Richard.
You bet.